Hello, everyone. John, just to do a mic check. Can you hear me? Fantastic. I'm so glad that everyone is here with me. I am Alicia Atkins, Henrico County School Board member representing Highland Springs, Sandston, and Varina. During our time this evening, we will reflect on 2020, talk about where we are right now in Henrico County Public Schools, and get a small glimpse of 2021. And then we're going to have open mic. That's your time. So I said 2021, social distance, quarantine. And I don't know about you, but this is one that I used in 2020 that I never thought that I would. The groceries are on the porch. So who would have thought that we would have been using those words or phrases? 2020 also presented us with loss. At a minimum, the loss of a moment, perhaps even moments when you're feeling like you're about to lose your mind. The loss of life. Whether it was through natural causes, viruses, medical conditions, or just straight up injustice. 2020 also offered some opportunities. Opportunities for birth life. Congratulations to those that welcome two-legged and four-legged additions to your families. Congrats to you. Also, opportunities to explore new hobbies. Also, to slow down and spend some quality time with family and friends. I know within our schools, we certainly took advantage of opportunities like installing the CAPE benches at each school in the Varina district, also at Newbridge Learning Center and the academies at Virginia Randolph. And for those of you who are not familiar, CATE, K-A-T-E, it stands for Kind Acts Touch Everyone. And that is engraved in each of the benches. We also implemented some programs. We expanded the Team Excel program. It's at John Rolfe and Elko right now active. It is being implemented for Highland Springs High School and Varina High School. In 2020, I had an opportunity to speak with the directors of Peak Experience. And if you're not familiar with Peak Experience, it's a rock climbing facility. And so in 2020, we were in discussions about a partnership for staff and students at Virginia Randolph. And that is going to come into fruition. And one other that I'm so elated about, and it is the opportunities that our students in the Varina district have to work with Miss Katina Downey. She is a CPA, also in partnership with the IRS and Henrico CTE. We were able to offer students right here in our district an opportunity to become a volunteer income tax preparer. That deserves a hand clap all by itself. And we did some celebrating in 2022. Sandston was honored for his academic achievements and in working with special populations and students and their families. We recognize each teacher that received a Teacher of the Year award. We recognized and celebrated the first Black nurse at Varina Elementary School. And Varina Elementary School opened, I believe, somewhere around 1909. Highland Springs High School lacrosse head coach was inducted into the Richmond chapter of the U.S. Lacrosse Hall of Fame. Then closer to the end of 2020, we were serenaded by Elko Middle School band, chorus, and strings. And we were overjoyed by Justin Abernathy and Damian Scott from the Varina High School Center for Communications and Media Relations for their VSBA award-winning video, More Than a Student. Gosh, 2020 had a lot going on, but there's even more. In Varina, Sandston, and Highland Springs, we were models for caring and sharing. Henrico Palace donated meals for Thanksgiving. The Chickahominy YMCA right there off Williamsburg Road in Sandston donated school supplies. The Varina Women's Club was providing Hershey Kisses over at Mayford. And then right down the road, there were local community members like Patricia Clement and so many more to offer meals, offer shelter, offer clothing. The Henrico Ministers Conference is another one, donating food and encouragement. I could go on and on about what some say the Varina district, I call the vision district. Because we use our eyes to see color, but we use our hearts to go beyond the color. Because we know character means so much more than skin color. I love us, and I will continue to shout for us. And so that was a small glimpse of 2020. Let's all say goodbye to 2020 as we continue to stay ready for all that 2021 has to offer for us. And in speaking of right here and right now, I am going to turn the floor over to the first female superintendent in Henrico County Public Schools. And her name is Dr. Amy Caswell. Dr. Caswell, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mrs. Atkins, for a trip down memory lane that had a lot of celebrating in it, despite some of the very challenging circumstances we found ourselves in 2020. No doubt there was quite a bit to celebrate, so I appreciated getting the opportunity to look back at some of those successes. Well, there is quite an agenda planned for this evening, so I am going to do my best to make sure that I'm brief, because what a great lineup you have planned for this Varina Town Hall this evening, and you'll get to hear from a number of some tremendously talented HCPS staff who have quite a bit to share when it comes to resources and those sorts of things for our families. So I am on the agenda to talk about expanded in-person learning, and as you know, this is something we have been continuing to strive for, opportunities to bring more and more of our students back into our buildings for in-person learning, particularly those who opted to do so and who have made that choice. You'll recall that at the beginning of this school year, while we started in a predominantly virtual environment, we began offering limited in-person instruction for many groups of our students. For example, our very youngest learners. Sometimes this was to come in and participate in some phonemic awareness testing, things that are best done in person, offering services for students with special needs, students for whom English is not their first language, and expanding that to a number of our career and technical education programs. Then in October, we worked towards putting a timeline in place to begin to expand those options for families who chose in person for their students. And as you'll recall, we had to delay those timelines a number of times before today. And while we regret having to do that, there have been a number of reasons that we've had to make those adjustments. And so specifically at this moment in time, you'll recall that we are beginning our vaccination efforts for HCPS employees, and that actually will start this Wednesday, which is tomorrow. It's upon us very quickly, and we'll go through next week. And this is the first dose of the vaccine, and this is a vaccine that will be given in 2 parts to our staff. And so we are beginning what is a tremendously large effort, not just to be a part of this for our Henrico County school staff, but for others in Group 1B. This, while it's a huge undertaking, was something we didn't know would be so soon upon us when we set our most recent timeline for expanded in-person learning, but certainly was positive to learn that Virginia, and particularly our area, would be entering into 1B this soon, which of course includes public school staff. So again, though, we continue to strive to bring more students back for in-person learning. We will be bringing our students back who chose to do so. And so while we have not set that timeline yet, I know that it's really tough on our students, our families, not to have, and our staff, furthermore, not to have that deadline or that date in place. That's something we're continuing to work through as this vaccination effort unfolds. And so I know that our board is interested in having a detailed discussion about timelines no later than our next scheduled meeting, which is Thursday, January 28th, that school board meeting. But in the meantime, no, we continue to offer our fully virtual learning and our limited in-person learning, and really, again, targeting the efforts now even to work on bringing students who may not have been invited in before, particularly those who may be having some challenges meeting the curriculum. So we are doing all we can to make sure we are serving our student needs both virtually and in person. And that takes us through the nutshell version of where we are with our expanded in-person learning efforts. And so I know you may have questions, which we can get to later, but in an effort to get through the agenda, I'm going to now turn it over to Adrienne Cole-Johnson, who is our Director of Family and Community Engagement, because she is going to share some resources for our families. Adrienne?
All right, good evening. It's great to see so many of you all here on the call. I am going to make the first attempt to share my screen as I just kind of talk through some of the resources that we have. Before we get started, or before we jump in, I'd love to, let me see, hopefully you all are able to see my screen. And just wanted to give general info about our Family and Community Engagement Department. We have great joy of doing a lot of varied work here in the district. But we really are leaning into a build, bridge, and boost approach. We build relationships in resource-rich school communities. This is really our goal of equipping our staff with knowledge and access regarding various resources in Henrico. Much of this relationship building is done through our family advocates and then just other connectors in our schools. We bridge high-impact collaborations and partnerships. And so I even see a few partners on the call, and partners are parents, but they're also organizations and faith organizations. So the very folks that are really working to support our schools. This is done on a department and division level, but there's also significant support on the school level to be intentional about the community partnerships and collaborations that we're fostering. And then third is the boost. We boost integrated family involvement and engagement. And this integrated family engagement approach really evolved through the national PTAs, where the focus is on being inclusive, individualized, and impactful. With this model, family engagement is truly integrated into the fabric of our educational spaces and really supports the academic fiber of the environments of our schools. And so that's a quick overview of our department. And now I'd love to just jump into some of the many resources that are out there. I have to mention that most of our work is really done in partnership and in collaboration with so many other dynamic departments and divisions. I'll start with one that we're offering is our Bridge Builders Academy. We saw great opportunity just really to continue to connect, whereas these workshops and sessions would usually be in person. We've really worked to do more in a virtual setting. We actually are hosting our first gathering for this winter session tonight. It's around ACs, and we're having an outside partner who's really talking to parents and staff about how to better support our young people. We have various sessions, typically every other week, and just really look at a few different programming strands that have really risen up to be important for the Henrico community. Around technology support, we have worked very closely with our technology department and also with support from Henrico Education Foundation. The need for access to internet and quality internet has been ongoing, and we really have seen that rise over the past year and throughout the pandemic. And so whether they're hotspots that we've been able to provide to families, or even most currently, the Internet Essentials program, where we are providing supports for families in their homes at no cost for a year's time. And so that continues to happen. If you're not aware and if you are in need of that support, most of our schools are really reaching out to our department, and we're able to get individuals set up that way. Our Family and Educator Resource Center is just that. It's a resource for families and for educators. When I mentioned the Bridge Builders Academy, that's one strand that falls underneath there, but it's really grown again a lot over the last year. If I had to share something that's really stood out, it's the need for tutoring services. Many families have been reaching out to see what additional supports are there for their students that may need a little bit more in this virtual setting. And so it's an opportunity. If there's something on your mind, something if you're curious that may not be provided in your schools, you can reach out to us, and we are typically connecting you either within our school system or with other partners. Our food supports. Hcps continues to provide daily meals through our nutrition department. However, as a support for this effort, and also through support through Henrico Education Foundation, we have been able to help with gift cards for families who are just needing a little bit more during this time. This has really proven to be a huge support for families during the pandemic as well, and we continue to provide that as requested and as needed. ELL resources, so our English language learners, we have provided significant attention there. Sarah, who's our specialist over in that department, I'll have to give a special mention to the Equity, Diversity and Opportunities Division as well, as they have really been leading some efforts for our immigrant and refugee populations. But various departments have been very intentional about connecting with those families. I know that we have provided some specific workshops there and really being intentional through our family advocates to make sure that we are meeting the needs. And then lastly are the community resources. As I've mentioned a few times, we have really been looking to be intentional about knowing who does what in our community, building relationships with our neighbors and other organizations that are doing such meaningful work here in Henrico. And so daily we're sharing out these insights with others, but I would say we're also learning more about what's out there to support our students and families. That's an early one, sorry. Let's see. I should not be, okay. Not sharing my screen anymore. I know we're going through the agenda. And again, I will be here throughout the evening to answer any questions as well. And I believe Dr. Parrish is next.
Good evening. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. I'm going to also try to share my screen here. Let's see. Sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. Okay, are you able to see the screen?
I cannot see your screen. I see your that your camera's off.
Camera should be on.
We see you now.
Do you see the screen?
No, ma'am.
Oh, okay. Well, I don't know what the issue is. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, but I'm going to move along. So I'm going to talk with you about social emotional supports and mental health services for students. This is certainly an unprecedented time for education and also for the world. All of us are living history, and our children and our youth will be defined in part by their experiences during COVID-19 and the pandemic. As our students have encountered many losses and many traumas and many other experiences, such as the disruption of their education, loss of relationships with peers, loss of relationships with teachers and other significant individuals in their lives. There have been numerous students who have experienced also within their family system, parents who have lost employment, parents who have lost housing, and students have also suffered food scarcity. These are all issues that have brought to bear issues regarding the social and emotional support of our students and the mental health needs of our students. Those students who we were working with, who were anxious and having difficulty coping prior to the pandemic, have suffered additional traumas around their experiences from going through the pandemic and some of the issues and concerns that I mentioned. And so our students, as a result, are children who are going to be returning to us with even bigger needs than they left us with. We are aware of that, and we are working to make sure that we have supports in our schools to support our students when they return. We are already begun that work. We've already been working to maintain connections with our students throughout the period that they have been engaged in virtual learning. We certainly have not stopped in terms of providing mental health services. We did begin doing teletherapy with students, those that parents agreed to allow us to continue providing counseling. We have continued to provide those services with those students. Those connections have been very important for our students. They've been very important for us to maintain a connection and to know that our students are being provided for and that they are stable in terms of what their emotional needs are. It's been quite a feat to visit families because visiting families and visiting students has been something that has been a requirement. Not all of our students we've been able to connect with through the internet and, Teams and the various platforms. And so it's been necessary to go out and to visit our students and to do well checks. So we have continued to do check-in and check-out throughout the pandemic, throughout the period of time that our students have been out of school, checking in to make sure that they are okay. If they are not engaging in instruction, then we want to know why that is. And in those visits, we found children in need, various needs, and it's a full range of needs from those students who are suffering from anxiety because of the circumstances that they're living in and the circumstances that they are living under. And so for those students who are in need of services and linkage to services, we have been able to provide those services in providing a link to mental health and some of the other mental health providers within the community, so that services can continue and needs can continue to be provided for. So our students, as we begin to prepare for their return, like I said, we are aware that they're going to be coming with greater needs. And so we have partnered with our local mental health agencies, Henrico Mental Health. We meet weekly to discuss our students, to discuss needs, and to prepare for the fact that we're going to have more families that are going to be seeking services. We've already seen the increase among students who are being treated for anxiety, increase in students and families who are suffering from depression, substance abuse, and suicidal ideation. These are the areas that we talk about and talk about frequently as needs. And so Henrico Mental Health has been a great partner for us and will continue to partner with us to provide the services that our families are in need of, as well as the services that our students are in need of. We will continue to assess our students for their needs as they return to us and make sure that we have services in place within the schools to provide and support them in ways that they're going to need that level of support as far as coping with some of the experiences that they have had throughout the pandemic. And so we're preparing for that and are looking forward to our students returning for us so that we can continue to see. It's one thing to provide services through the various platforms, but it definitely is a huge difference when you can actually see your students in person. There's nothing greater than knocking on the door and having them standing in the doorway. You at least you got eyes on them. And that's the one thing that we have missed so much, is being able to have eyes on our children every day, to know that they're okay, and to have those conversations about how they're feeling, what their needs are, and what services we can help provide them. And so the social emotional services, the school-based mental health services, those providers in our schools are our school counselors, there are our school psychologists, and there are our school social workers. They are in every school. And they provide those services on an ongoing basis within the schools. And so we are so grateful that we have them as a resource here. And so they are great partners as well in working with us to plan how we're going to work and provide our services, those services for our students. So I thank you for the opportunity this evening to give me an opportunity to just highlight a little bit of what social emotional supports and mental health services look like in Henrico and what we're doing. And perhaps sometime in the future, we could have a longer conversation about it. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
We're going to keep with a COVID-19 update.
Mrs. Atkins, I think folks are having a little bit of trouble hearing you. So I'm going to just step in. I'm not sure Dr. Tigan was able to hear you either. So I know that she is next on the agenda with the health update. So Dr. Tigan, if you would take it away.
Absolutely. It's a pleasure to share a little bit about the work of the Health Committee. The Health Committee is organized by our school health services supervisor, Ms. Gilbert. She is a registered nurse. She's highly qualified, and we are so fortunate to have her. Ms. Atkins also serves on the Hcps Health Committee, and we are thankful to have her input and wisdom as well. We do continue at each one of our meetings, which currently we are meeting weekly, to look at local and regional data, but more importantly, we look at what our school data is related to infection rates and the transfer of infection. We continue to see community spread that is extremely high. However, we don't see the spread within our buildings. And so a lot of that is due to our HCPS health plan that we follow in our buildings that has our mitigation strategies, which include social distancing, the wearing of masks, frequent hand washing, coughing and sneezing protocols, as well as additional PPE that has been provided for our staff. Some of the personal protective equipment, PPE, that is provided is based on their roles. And, you know, I'm proud to say that Dr. Avula, who is the medical director for the Henrico Health District, shared that he does not know of another school division that has invested so heavily in the protection of our staff and students. We have also looked at some of the areas that Dr. Parrish was just sharing, looking at student successes, because there have been successes as well as concerns for our students. We have looked at attendance, we've looked at grades, you know, and currently our focus is on providing the first dose of the vaccine for our staff. That has been a collaborative effort with Henrico County, our county counterparts really leading the way. And we are working with Hanover, Goochland, and Richmond so that we can bring more resources to our staff here in Henrico County. Every month, twice a month at the board meetings, the health committee, myself and Ms. Gilbert present the update of what was discussed at the meetings and any highlights that are pertinent to that. And so I encourage you to watch on January 28th will be the next school board meeting, and there will be an update from the health committee at that time as well.
Thank you, Dr. Tigan.
You're welcome.
Mrs. Atkins, let's check your audio and see if we're able to hear you at this point. And if not, I will keep facilitating.
All right, mic check, 1, 2, 1, 2.
Sounds great. Sounds great.
All right, so let's keep this going. Thank you, everyone so far that have shared where we are right now. I am so appreciative, and like I said, we are going to keep it going because there are a lot of people excited to share information with you. And I mentioned at the top of the hour, we reflected on 2020. We talked a little bit about where we are right now. So let's get a glimpse of the future. I'm really excited to share with you Liz Parker. She is the Director of School Counseling, and she is going to talk about the planning guide. Pay close attention to that. I am very excited about this guide, guys. So please pay attention to that. I think it's going to make your life easier when you sit down with your kids to talk about classes. She is also going to talk about senior transitions, and then she is going to be followed by the Monette Martin, a JMU representative. And so Monette will surely introduce herself much better than I can, and I'm going to allow her to do that. So without further ado, Ms. Parker, the floor is yours.
Great. Thank you so much. I'm Liz Parker, the Director of School Counseling and Student Support and Wellness. I'm going to share my screen here with you so that we can talk about the planning guide, which is very excited. So let me know if you can see my PowerPoint.
We can see it.
Excellent. All right. So it is hard to believe, but it is time for students and families currently in grades 5 through 11. So those are our rising 6th through 12th grade students to start preparing for the 2021-2022 school year. I know, incredibly hard to believe, but we're here. So to help you start preparing, we want to introduce our HCPS planning guide for 2021-2022. And this is a fully online planning guide, and it can be found by going to academicplanningguide.henricoschools.us. So it is live right now, and you can find that again on academicplanningguide.henricoschools.us. And this online tool actually replaces that 128-page kind of printed document that many of you are familiar with from years past. So this online tool is going to help students and families really quickly locate the important information that they need in order to start their academic and career planning. So just a quick overview of what it entails. The online planning guide includes information regarding career clusters, career pathways, and career exploration. It also discusses and illustrates diploma options and requirements for all of our diplomas. It also has course descriptions, which I know a lot of our students are really interested in finding out what courses do I need to graduate and what do those courses look like. It also includes common course pathways to help you with your planning. And it includes information about our specialty centers, our non-traditional programs, and our different regional high school programs that all students can participate in if they choose to and go through the application process. Another function of the planning guide is that it has another section about all general information. So this is information about all of our middle and high school programming. It includes things like dropping courses, adding courses, GPA, class rank, earning college credit while in high school, grading scales, promotion policies, and any information that you possibly want to know about middle or high school is all right there. So to help you and to help some of those families and students who would maybe like more support in the academic and career planning process, you can also choose to navigate through the planning guide through a really simple 3-step process for academic and career planning. So you can search for the information on your own, or you can let us help you guide and navigate the planning guide to make it simple and easy for you to find the information that you want. We also have a short video tutorial to help our students and families learn more. The tutorial link is right here, and I'm happy to supply that at any point. And it is actually brought to you by some of our students, our current students at the Center for Communications right now. And they did a phenomenal job of walking through the planning guide and helping out so that we know how to navigate and work together. And so I also just want to share with you really important next steps for our current 5th through 11th grade students. Again, those rising 6th through 12th graders and their families. Please start exploring that planning guide today because we want to make sure that you are prepared for our upcoming course request window for students and parents. You can see that window will run February 15th through the 26th. And so again, the window will open on the 15th and it will end on the 26th. And during this window, students and parents will utilize their PowerSchool parent portal on their computer or on their laptops, their smartphones, tablets. And there you can review the core course recommendations that teachers have made for your students. And then you get to make your course selections for next year. So that is a really important window. And our planning guide is going to help you prepare so that you're ready to go when that window opens. If for some reason you don't have a parent portal account for PowerSchool, now is the time to go ahead and set that up. So there's a link here that can help you with directions for either creating a parent portal account or for adding a student to your existing accounts. And then really school counselors have already started to meet with students and will continue to do so in the coming weeks to review pathways and course descriptions and options for the next school year. So if you have any questions about the planning guide, about the course request process, or just about academic and career planning in general, please reach out to your school counseling team. They are here to kind of partner with you throughout this process. So that's all I have about the planning guide. Any thoughts or additional things, Ms. Atkins?
No, that was wonderful. And if you didn't catch some of the website to get to some of that information, I believe it'll be posted in the chat, and you can always contact your school as well. Let's keep this going. Next on our agenda, and thank you again, Ms. Parker. Next on our agenda is Miss Monette Martin, James Madison University representative. She is going to talk about JMU. I felt it was important to have a representative from a college to share with our families the college experience right now and anything else that you would like to share. Miss Monette Martin, the floor is yours.
Thank you and good evening, everyone. Thank you again. And I must say, Miss Alicia, congratulations on your award yesterday. I'm truly excited. My name is Monette Martin, and I serve as the Senior Assistant Dean of Admissions with James Madison University, which is located in Harrisonburg, Virginia. Go Dukes. If there are any Dukes out there, I am a double Duke. And now have the proud opportunity to work for my alma mater. I have been with JMU in this capacity for 16 years. I am a regional representative, so I'm one of only faculty and staff that work away from campus. So I actually live and work right here from a home office here in the sort of in the Chesterfield area. So I've actually been working virtually for quite a while. So I did want to spend a little bit of time. I was trying to share Teams is very new to me. So it doesn't look like I am connecting, but I will continue to roll on. I will say that, with the whole pandemic and everything, of course, it's been a shift, but every time I speak to students, parents, educators, teachers, administrators, I just have to say you all have done a phenomenal job of pivoting. We had to, of course, pivot. We did some things well and did some things not so well and had to go back and fix it. And we continue to evolve and make changes as things sort of arise. But one of the good things is that this has opened up an opportunity for us to be able to meet students in a different way and meet students where they are, whether it be by their phones. I know some of them, finished out last year with having to do classes and finish out their year by, pulling up into a parking lot. We are very familiar and very aware with all of that and some of the challenges. So I would just like to say, especially with Ms. Parker, if as you talk to your staff, that you share with many of them, especially the counselors, that many colleges and universities, especially those of my peers within the state and across the state of Virginia, we are really open to understanding where students are and the challenges that they've been facing over the pandemic. Many of us have shifted from not having or including test scores in our admissions practices. One thing about JMU, we did that 4 years ago. It was like, wow, who knew that this would happen? But we actually stopped using SAT and ACT scores in our admissions review process about 4 years ago. So that's not really affecting our students. However, there are some colleagues that are at other universities throughout the state that are doing test optional. So we're strongly encouraging counselors and teachers and even parents, reach out to us. We are not in the business of denying students. We want to admit, especially within the state. We are not looking to deny, but we really do want students to, sit back, take the time to reflect. One of the areas where I find students oftentimes don't take advantage of is doing that personal essay or answering those essay questions or waiting to the last minute to actually put time and thought into those essay questions. But I'll be quite honest, especially in my role and as I'm going through applications now, that's a very important, a very pivotal point in the application because across the board, every student looks the same when it comes to selecting courses, as Ms. Parker stated. If the school is accepting test scores, what's going to make that student individual or stand out the most? And where many of us are going to now is those personal statements. So really try to encourage your students to spend time and energy and putting a lot of focus into that area. I know for us, we have extended our deadline date, our normal deadline dates. That would be normally November 1st. That one moved out to December. Now we're in our regular decision application process. The deadline date is February 1st. Scholarship time is now around. I could not still, like I said, pull up my screen, but I can, I guess, drop in the chat. One nice thing is I am now getting to meet students virtually. So I have Calendly appointments and 30-minute sessions where I'm really having the opportunity to get to see and talk to individual students, parents, family members that just have questions about, this process in college, and all of those real upfront and sort of one-on-one questions that they may not get to be able to answer or have answered at one of our traditional college fairs. So I just want to let you all know that I'm so delighted. I see a lot of familiar faces here, and I'm really excited about this opportunity. I really appreciate Ms. Atkins having me join. I can always come back. I will share my information. She has it. And I also want to kind of do a plug and shout out because I am a member of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated. And we, for those of you that do not know, we do have a chapter that we service the Eastern Henrico, Charles City, and New Kent. We're fairly new. We're about 3 years old. The chapter is called Omega Rho Omega chapter, and we are about 40 plus sorority sisters strong, and we are looking and wanting to do any and everything we can to serve in the community of Eastern Henrico. So you can also reach out to me. We do have a target or service project that is nationally known called the CAP, which is College Application Process. So if any of you have ideas or programs in the community that we can help you with or help your students. I heard, there was some mental health. We have sorority sisters who are definitely trained in that area, in the mental health, the tutoring. There's several retired teachers. My schedule's kind of flexible. So again, I just want to let you know that we're here and we are ready to serve. Whether it be through my sorority or through what I do on a daily living in my daily life, we're at James Madison University. So thank you again. I really appreciate this opportunity. I do need to ask if there are any questions. I didn't have a lot of time, but again, I'm so willing and excited to come back, or if you have ideas of speaking to parents and students, I'm more than happy to do that.
Thank you so much. We really, really appreciate you being here and sharing the information that you've shared. We are going to pause the questions and comments until the very end so that we can get through some more information by our presenters. And next up, let me tell you, if you don't know her, you will. Her name is Lashawn Payne. She's on the Henrico County Council of PTAs. That is a mouthful. And she represents Varina, Sandston, and Highland Springs. She represents the Varina district. I had the pleasure of having a PTA leaders meeting a week or so ago. And Lashawn was at the forefront of that. And she wants to continue that, and I'll be right by her side doing that. So without further ado, let me introduce you to Miss Lashawn Payne.
Hello, everyone. It's me. I am Lashawn Payne. Thank you, Miss Alicia Atkins. I am PTA. You are PTA. We're all a PTA. Parents, teachers, students, everyone associated with us is part of my group. So thank you in advance. And let me see if I can share my screen. I'm going to be brief. There it is. All right. So welcome to my slides. Varina Vision for the Future. I just wanted everyone here to know that PTA is here to help make every child's potential a reality. We engage, we empower families and communities. We advocate for all of the children. All right. And then I wanted to share with you some upcoming meetings and events and details. Again, Alicia Atkins mentioned that she had a group meeting with our PTA presidents, and that was on last week on January 7th. We had a great time with her. About half of our school PTA presidents met last week, and I looked on the chat today and noticed that we have a bunch of PTA presidents here today. So thank you for joining. Thank you for these wonderful resources. Thank you for the people that are here to share all of this information with parents. I always say parenting is the hardest job in America. Going back to the schedule, January 12th and through the, looks like 21st, you all may have already heard that the General Assembly is in. Well, Virginia PTA is part of that, and we give our parents opportunities to connect. And this year, we're having virtual rallies and forums and things planned. So a schedule on our website for that. Then we have our, if you're not familiar, reflection ceremony. That's when we have our arts and culture competitions between all of the PTAs. First, we do it at the Henrico County level, then the Richmond District, Virginia, and national. So that's coming up February 24th. And then we wrap up, looks like Virginia PTA General Assembly at the end of the month, going into our Virginia PTA 100th anniversary meeting. And then coming in March, we have another State of the School Board breakout session. These are wonderful. Thank you, Ms. Alicia Atkins. What she's been doing is going to committed to meet with us quarterly. So this is wonderful for her. She picks topics. It's so very personable. Everybody gets to engage. We get to ask her questions. This is such a great opportunity for us to be able to be here today and to have her with us quarterly. And finally, looks like we have our end of year banquet. Not sure what our plans are going to be this year because of all the virtual, but we are going to try to do something because we have to make sure we wrap up our year with our leadership training and vendors. All of our meetings are virtually until school resumes in person. I will make sure to type in our website. It's www.hccpta.com. Please, parents, teachers, students, everybody, go to that website. We have all kind of resources, documentation. We network with each other. I can't tell you all that we're trying to do, to get through these times, good and bad. So we are here for you, PTA, and I can't end this call without saying how proud we are of Miss Alicia Atkins for the Distinguished Community Award. Girl, not only for Henrico County, but she represents Varina District. So thank you and congratulations again for all that you do. We appreciate this meeting here tonight. And thank you. It's almost 100 people here. So this is a blessing. So I'm going to stop talking and rambling now, and I'm going to throw the baton to Dr. Grant and Miss Adrian Cole Johnson.
All right. Thank you for that great energy, Lashawn. And I will do the update for a community learning center for us. And so community learning centers, quick recap. It really is Henrico's approach to building community schools. And community schools really look at schools as hubs. And so a neighborhood hub, uniting our families, educators, and community partners to provide the best and just top quality experiences around academic, enrichment, health, and social services. There are about four parts that really drive community schools, and that is opportunities for young people, collaborative practices. So again, working with partners and working with others, even outside of our schools, capacity building supports, and then also stakeholder engagement. As it stands, we have 4 schools that have officially adopted the community learning center model. And I was going to pull it up a screen, but it's just one slide, so I'll just kind of talk them out. That is Glenlee Elementary School, Ratcliffe Elementary, Laburnum Elementary, and Wilder Middle School. Each of these schools have a component of an after-school program for our young people. We have been very creative in figuring that out during this virtual session, and all of the direct program is offered through HEF and their after-school programming. And so with the programs, you're provided academic and enrichment opportunities for our young people. It's really about providing exciting and unique approaches for our scholars to learn. Another support that each of our schools have are there's a trauma-informed education specialist, Miss Amy Johnson, and she really moves around these schools. She's currently working to help schools to really process and do an organizational assessment with each of them about kind of rating where they are with regards to trauma, but even more so looking at resiliency. And so what are some of those resilience factors within the schools that are really strengths to support our students and our families? And so again, while we're in those 4 schools, the hope is that this model will really grow. I know in the Family and Community Engagement Department, we're really looking to expand on that and looking at our community learning centers. And thank you again, Mrs. Atkins, for allowing me to be here and share a little bit more on that topic. After me, I believe it's Dr. Mans. If Dr. Mans is there, I'll pass it on to you.
I'm going to try to share. Let's see if it works. And that is what I thought would happen. So if somebody could share.
Sure.
Okay. Do I need to stop? How do I stop? Okay.
Yeah, but for Ben Affleck's love life is in the dumps, or should I say the dumpster?
You see slide chat?
Yes.
Ben stepped out
There's
of the
background. I don't even hear it.
I can't. They're not showing on the screen. So you may just need to talk.
Not a problem. I can. If nothing else, I'm very good at that. First off, I want to thank everyone for being here. I know it is 7 o'clock at night and I am latter on the list. So I'm going to try to quickly go through some of the things that I wanted to touch on. In our office, we support equity, diversity, and opportunity efforts for students, staff, and the community. As you know, there's been a resurgence of anger at longstanding racism and racial inequities, which has been further elevated by the anxiety and tension caused by the COVID pandemic. And I'd like to take a moment to highlight some of the ways we've been supporting our schools. So I broke it down into obviously our equity, diversity, and opportunity. So first thing I want to let you all know that we support what we call equity teams, equity coalitions on the elementary level, and we also support our equity ambassador groups, which is our student voice groups. For the elementary equity coalition and equity teams, they're a driving force at the school level towards inclusion and equity for all students. These teams work to identify opportunity gaps and develop action plans to address these gaps. The goal with them is really to work on fostering a sense of belonging for all students, increasing family engagement, and improving the academic and behavioral outcome for students. Students will live the vision of this kind of action for equity. This is particularly important during this time of COVID. And so we've been really working to provide our teams with the necessary training to assist them with the identification of the needs, as well as showing them how they should giving them appropriate responses and supports and services for them. The other area is our Equity Ambassador Program. That is our student voice program, something I'm particularly proud of. We have approximately 200 students across the district who are enrolled in it in our high school program. And the students in a year when we are in school, they work on equity projects that they have identified within their schools. So we did not want to, just due to COVID and the fact that many of our students are virtual, to end the work that they had already begun. And so what we've been working with them now on is created leadership modules for them, where their equity team members are actually going through leadership modules on each school-based level. And in these leadership modules is helping them learn how to engage in daring discourse so that they'll be able to have those conversations with their peers in a manner that is respectful, and also allows them a safe space to have them. Some of the programs that they are also engaged in is something which is called Language Navigators. Our students have been working to create videos in about 20 different languages so that parents will able to have access to information, things like how do you get on Schoology, but now you can do it not just in Spanish or English or Arabic, but you can do it in Swahili, because we have students who speak Swahili. And so that's one area. We have another group that is part of our Equity Ambassador group, where they are actually helping us create an ethnic studies course, which is something that the students were really passionate about having. So they've been working with our new, and I want to say Varina, shout out, Miss Tiffany Lewis, who's our new CRIM coordinator. She came out of Varina High School. She's been working with our new CRIM coordinator to help put together or give their ideas and thoughts towards the creation of an ethnic studies course that we'll be presenting to the school board. So Ms. Atkins, this is my intro to that, but we're presenting it to and that actually came from a request by students. I had so many students who said, we want to see ourselves, we want to have conversations, not just about historical issues, but about current issues. And so they're really working to help us put together a responsive ethnic studies course that we'll be presenting hopefully later over the summer. Excuse me. Excuse me, I apologize.
No worries, Monica.
I apologize. I do apologize. And that would be Maya, named after Maya Angelou. So lift every, so she wants to make sure you all heard her voice. All right. So talk a little bit about the diversity work that we've been doing. And I want to say thank you to Adrian for shouting it out. We've been really working closely with our immigrant and refugee community to really help coordinate efforts. There's a number of different groups that were supporting immigrant and refugee communities, but they were all kind of doing it in silos. And so what we just did is we helped coordinate those opportunities. I want to shout out to Ms. Parrish, who's been on some of our calls with us. Ms. Parker's been on some of our calls. And we're trying to make sure that we're being very responsive to our immigrant and refugee community, because many of them cannot access some of the same supports that our individuals can access from social services. So ensuring that they are getting the supports and needs that for their community. Last, I'll talk quickly about our opportunities that we are presenting. So as you all know, after the, and I don't even want to call it incident, the murder of George Floyd, and Breonna Taylor, there was a tremendous amount of social unrest that went on in our communities, and we felt like we needed to be responsive to that. And so what we did was we created we offered healing circles for many of the students and staff, just so they could have a safe space so they could get their emotions and kind of talk about how they were feeling. From those conversations, they asked us, they wanted to meet more. So we put in place 3 affinity groups that took place over the summer. One of them were for Black teachers. One of them were for allies, co-conspirators, teachers who just they were not Black teachers, but they wanted to be responsive to the concerns of the time. And then also teachers of color. So those were teachers who did not self-identify as anything, but just wanted to have a conversation about how they may have been feeling. And in that space, we just again created a space for them to talk, have conversation about that. And so we are now continuing those groups, and we call it Cycle 2. I'm really excited to say that our Black Affinity group has now moved into a Black Educator Collective. And so they are really working on supporting one another within this safe space. And we have been helping them kind of learn more about other Black educators and scholars, because they wanted to see themselves both in the scholarship of the work as well as in the schools. And so that's something that we're very, very excited about.
Wow, that was a lot of good information. Thank you.
No
and
problem.
thank Maya for putting a little chuckle in my office as I sit and listen to her. So tell her thank you as well. So guys, we are at a place where I am going to share a few thoughts, and then we're going to get right into open mic, your opportunity to ask questions. And so some of the things that I want to share as we think about what 2021 has to offer. Remember, we have a new Highland Springs High School coming. It is on target, and it's scheduled to be completed in August of this year. So that's a lot to jump and scream and do cartwheels over that they are on target. Also, I will be talking a little bit more about recruitment in our schools of teachers. And I want to thank Francine Bolden. She is the HR director within Henrico County Public Schools. She and I had a wonderful conversation about recruitment. It is important to have individuals in the building that look like you when you're a student. And something that I wanted to share with everyone is something called Project Search. It's a collaborative partnership between St. Mary's Hospital, VCU, and Henrico County Public Schools. And it's an employment preparation program for students with disabilities that provide classroom instruction. And it also has an authentic immersion in the workplace. And so it really does give our students the opportunity to be supported by a full-time exceptional education teacher, an instructional assistant, and 2 job coaches that are provided by VCU. So wanted to make sure that that was on everyone's radar. I will be talking more about that. I'll also be talking more in 2021 about the Teacher Scholars Program. If you are not aware of that, the intent of this particular program is to encourage, identify, and accept high school seniors that are interested in pursuing teaching careers. So parents and families out there, if you're not aware of this, please stay tuned because this could be a wonderful opportunity if your child is interested in becoming a teacher and they are a senior and they're interested in a teaching position with Henrico County Public Schools. Also, Lashawn shared some information about legislation and what the HCC PTA is doing. Of course, General Assembly is in session now through, I believe, February 11th. And there are 2 bills that are being discussed that I am keeping my eyes on. One of them is House Bill 1915. And that one requires that public school teachers be compensated at a rate that is at or above the national average. The other bill, House Bill, I think is 1904, and this bill requires that every person seeking initial licensure or renewal of a license from the Board of Education must complete cultural competency training, also with an endorsement in history and social sciences to complete instruction in African American history as prescribed by the board. So those are 2 House bills that are in the General Assembly now. I believe both of them have passed the House and they are going to the floor. I believe that's the current status of them. But I'm delighted that I'll actually be speaking with the 2 delegates that they are chairing those 2 bills to learn more and to advocate for those. I'm doing that, I think, on tomorrow or Friday, I believe. So wanted to just give you information on those. Also, delighted that I had a wonderful conversation about 2 hours ago with Ford NGL about Varina High School. And there's been several conversations about what else can we bring to the Varina district. Particularly, I'm thinking about Varina High School. We have an awesome communication program there. And we also have some space. And thinking about the future, what else can we do in this district to offer to our students? At top of mind for me is healthcare. And so that's the conversation that I had a few hours ago with the representatives of Ford NGL. And it's in 4 pockets. When I'm thinking about healthcare of the future, I'm thinking about the clinical components of healthcare, the administrative components of healthcare, administrative thinking about things like the insurance, the claims, those pieces, as well as marketing/communications and IT. We know that telehealth is on the rise and there's so many more careers that are going to be born over the next 2 to 3 years. And so just a few things that was at top of mind that I wanted to share with families. If you have ideas about different types of programming that you would like to see in our schools, feel free to reach out anytime. And lastly, I'll leave you with an update on the old Highland Springs High School building. I'm saying old, but you know what? I should just say current because it's not quite old yet. We still are using it. And in in that particular space, it's a large building. I'm a graduate of Highlands High School. I know it very well, very familiar with it. Some of the conversations about use of that school started, I would say, early November with several individuals. We sat in the library at Highland Springs High School to talk about expansion, and some of that expansion could potentially look like what Miss Adrienne Coles-Johnson shared around community learning centers, around making sure we use evidence-based practices and things of that nature. Also, a part of that discussion was using part of the building for a museum that is run by ACA students. So students that are graduating with business degrees, associate degrees in business, let's allow them to operate one before they leave. And so those are just a few ideas that are in discussion that have potential to come into fruition that I wanted to share with you. We are at 7:14, and I would be remiss without opening this floor to allow folks to ask questions, share feedback, share your concerns if you have them, recommendations. I am going to turn the floor over to Sean. And Sean, if you would share with individuals how they can do that, I would be grateful.
I would be happy to. As Mrs. Atkins said, this is your time to speak and ask your questions, share some comments and concerns, and we have a great group of folks here that can address those concerns and questions. I'm just going to remind you to, if you'd like to make a comment or ask a question, to use the hand icon at the top of right hand of your screen. If you raise your hand, we will know that you would like to speak, and we're going to do our best to call on folks in the order that they sign up. We already have some folks in line. William Brown, you raised your hand. Your hand has gone down, so I'm not sure if you're still in the meeting. Are you there, Mr. Brown, and do you still have a question for us?
Good evening. That was on accident. I apologize.
So you don't have a comment or question? We'll move on. Next in line is Maddie Jones. Maddie Jones, do you have a question or comment for the group?
No, I think my son accidentally hit that.
Okay, well, that's great to have your son involved. We're going to move on to Jada Freebert. Oh, Jada actually asked one in the chat box, so I'll get to that in just a moment. Nicole Webb, are you there?
I'm here.
Yay, Nicole. All right, go ahead. Go ahead with your question or comment for Mrs. Atkins and the group.
I kind of have a couple of questions that kind of all revolve around the students that are going to school or is going to stay at home when the back to school starts. And I was wondering about the hotspots and when they might need to be returned, and the meals that they used to get or can still get at this point during the day that will like carry them. The buses used to come around to the different bus stops. Will that continue as well when you go to in-person learning?
Thank you so much, Ms. Webb, for your questions. Regarding the meals, I am aware that they plan to continue. However, I'm going to turn it over to either Dr. Tigan or Dr. Cashwell to respond.
I am happy to respond. The intent is to continue meal service, not only the curbside, at least on Wednesdays, but also to look at still going out into the communities, and so that on the buses. And so the service would continue. It might look a little different, but it will still occur.
And also, Dr. Cashwell or Dr. Tigan, if you can address the hotspots, when will they be expected to return?
Sure. Oh, go ahead, Dr. Tigan. Sorry, it looked like you were off for a second.
The hotspots were good. They had 12 months. And so when that becomes an issue, we'll readdress that. If, thinking worst case scenario, if we're still virtual, we will certainly be looking at what we do as next steps. If we are back in school, we'll look at what the needs are, but they were a 12 months subscription. And I know that we've also worked to replace some of the hotspots with the Comcast service, because sometimes that's a better option. So really trying to work with families to see what is the best option for them based on their locations and needs.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. All right, Sean, next question.
All right, Mrs. Atkins, we have Jada Freebert. She has a question in the chat. She says, what is the best place to start for students coming to HCPS middle schools from a private school? Great question.
All right, I think that one also goes back to you, Dr. Tigan or Dr. Cashwell. If not, whomever feels comfortable responding.
Actually, I believe Mrs. Parker is with us still, and she'd probably be a great one to answer that, though I'm happy to add on to anything she might provide. She's our resident expert on that topic this evening.
Yes, I'm happy to respond for that. The first thing that I would suggest is to reach out to the school counseling department. We have a lot of experience of students transitioning back from homeschool and private school, and so they'll be able to help troubleshoot or answer any questions you have about credit transfers and things like that. So go ahead and reach out to the school counseling department as of the zone middle school that you are looking to attend, as well as the registrar.
Fantastic. Ms. Parker, do we have information about that on our HCPS website?
I'm sure it's somewhere, but let me make sure that it is in a place that is readily available, because I know that that's a topic a lot of parents have been interested in.
Yeah, I think it would be a good idea for us to, maybe we can circle back with families, because that is one question that I'm starting to get quite often, and it makes sense, the timing of that question. So I've made a note about that as well. And so Jada, thank you so much for your question.
All right, we have several folks in line. We have Mackenzie Nelson, Michelle Peters, C.L. Young, and Jen. So I just wanted to let those folks know they are on deck in line to ask their questions. So we will start with Mackenzie Nelson.
Hi, it's not Mackenzie, it's Shiraze Nelson. Mackenzie was using my laptop to do homework, so she never signed out. However, I just wanted to ask a question in regards to the Varina Communications Center. When Ms. Atkins referred to her maybe thinking about redoing it, when you say that you want to redo it, are you specifically saying that we're going to move maybe communication somewhere else? Because you referred to the like the nursing, the healthcare, and those things. Or are you saying that we need to add that to the actual Varina High School as another specialty center?
Sure. Thank you so much for your question, Mrs. Nelson. So I absolutely love our communications center. So we want to keep that. In discussions, we're thinking about what can we add to Varina High School to keep it being attractive, and making sure that we're thinking about programming and options that our students would be interested in. And in conversations, we talked about looking at healthcare and the potential to expanding programming. So keeping communications, but expanding upon the different types of programs that we could put in that building. And healthcare was the topic of discussion to add. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, I was just trying to understand, you know, maybe we should have this conversation off of this platform, because I'm just thinking, like, Henrico already has healthcare in Godwin, healthcare in the ACE centers. Just how would we do that and make it, and not take away from anything else that we're already doing?
Absolutely, absolutely. So that's actually part of the discussion that we were having, making sure that that level of programming is easier and more exposure and more seats for children and students in the East End, or particularly in the Varina district. And looking at some of the innovative pieces, we know that healthcare right now, that particular industry is evolving, and some of the careers that are coming to the forefront, there really is very limited programming on them right now. So as we look at the careers for the future that sits under the umbrella of healthcare, particularly when we're thinking about some of the administrative components under insurance and claims and how that evolves and almost sort of matriculates through the entire healthcare system, we're thinking about what's going to be in the future. How could that expand in programming with students, and what would be attractive? And so that's more so the conversations that we were having. Certainly nothing is in stone, nothing is happening right now. More so just discussions on what do students want? What can we predict to the future? And what does that look like in the pieces and where they already are serving in some of those spaces? So all of this is around discussion. And I also, of course, welcome the opportunity to talk a lot more and get your input and thoughts as well.
Okay, thank you.
My pleasure. And again, I really mean that. So reach out to me and I'd love to talk more about it.
Okay, thank you. Y'all have a great evening.
You're welcome.
All right, Michelle Peters, you're up next.
Okay, can you hear me? Can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Okay, good. Sometimes my mic act up. I was multitasking and I apologize that I was trying to be in this meeting and still working. So if you mentioned it, I apologize that I'm asking this question again. I heard you talking about mental health services. And so my question is, where would those resources be listed so that I can see if what I need is out there? I thought I heard someone reporting on the ability to be able to support parents and students with those services.
I believe Ms. Parrish, if you would be willing to respond, that would be wonderful. Your mic may be muted. I see your mouth moving, but I don't hear you.
So I believe the question is, where would you find information regarding mental health services? And so we are in the process of building our website so that those services are readily available through the website. However, if you want information specific to mental health, you can contact the school. The school counselors have information. School social workers also have information, as well as school psychologists.
Ms. Peters, does that answer your question?
Answered.
Okay.
All right, great. We're going to move on to CL Young. CL, go ahead with your question or comment for the group.
Well, first of all, I want to thank the board or the panel for being here tonight. I really appreciate it. It was a lot of information. Alicia, thank you again for providing us with us. Again, this is exciting to kind of know all this information, a little bit overwhelming, but in a good way. The one thing I did not hear, and maybe I missed it, or maybe it wasn't touched upon yet, was the idea about educational inclusion or inclusion of the educational content. Over the summer, we had this big reckoning, which I hate to kind of use that term with it, about social injustice, but we really haven't addressed that within our school system from my vantage point. I know over the summer, I kind of pressed a couple of our members to try to maybe start really getting on to that and start kind of creating an educational content that's more inclusive, more diverse, particularly starting out in the elementary school level. And I don't know where we're at on that. I don't know if we've ever broached that topic yet, but I would definitely like to see that take place.
Can I answer that question, Ms. Atkins?
Absolutely.
So, Mr. Young, first off, thank you for highlighting it as a need. But I do want to tell you a little bit of things because I didn't have a lot of time to talk. I was trying to focus a lot of the conversation around what we've been doing in response and support of social emotional and around the COVID issue. But I want to let you know that that has really been our big focus for 2021. I want to introduce you to Tiffany Lewis, who's on here with me. She is our new CRIM coordinator, and her job is to do exactly what you just spoke about. That is her pure function. And so when I first came on board, I work with my committee. I have a committee called the Equity Diversity Advisory Committee to create something called a CRIM framework. And so that framework is around culture responsiveness, and it ranges from everything from knowledge construction to equity pedagogy to ensuring representation. So it has all these different components to it to make sure that when we talk about culture responsiveness, it's not done in a singular sense, but it's done in a much more comprehensive way. And so it talks about social justice, all of these things. And so what Tiffany Lewis has been brought on to do is to take this idea, this framework, and really work with specialist teachers principals to actually in the implementation of it. And so I'll just say to you, Mr. Young, I could talk about this all day. It is a particular passion of mine. And if you would like to reach out to me individually, you and I can discuss it, and I have a meeting with Ms. Lewis, because I would love to hear your thoughts on it, because the fact that you're elevating that as a need makes my job much easier when I go knock on the doors to say, hey, this is something that not only our students are asking for, but our parents are asking for as well. So I just say that I don't want to take up too much time, but I do ask that you reach out to me individually, or myself or Ms. Lewis, and so that we can have a discussion about it.
Mr. Young, did you have any other questions or comments?
No, that was it. Thank you. I will reach out to you definitely.
All right, great. We're going to move on. We've got Jen and Nicole Webb in line, and then we have a few questions that I'll share from the chat. And then we'll see who else has their hand raised. So Jen, go ahead with your question.
This is Jennifer McDonough, and I am a parent and employee for VCU, and I wanted to share some information and then also ask a question about my child. So thank you, Ms. Atkins, for recognizing Project Search. I've been the project director for that program for 10 years, and we are currently accepting applications for young adults who are interested in looking at employment and getting employment training. So young adults with disabilities who are seeking an applied studies diploma. If they are interested in learning more about Project Search, we're accepting applications right now for that program for the next school year. So I dropped my staff member's name and email address in the chat. If folks want to gain information about that, we'd love to talk with you. And then my question for you was, do we know what the plan is for the last 2 days of January? They were listed as a half day for one day, and then they turned into asynchronous days. And so those are questions that have come up in my household that I cannot answer. Thanks.
Well, thank you so much for sharing the additional information about Project Search. Thank you for that space. I just recently became aware of it, and I wanted to make sure that as many families as possible, knew about Project Search. And so you and I will have a few more discussions, I would imagine, over time. And also, hopefully, we have an opportunity to drop some of that information in the chat for families that want to take advantage of that application as well. So I'll go ahead and turn the floor over to, let's see here, trying to see who we still have with us regarding your question around the last few days of January. I think is Dr. Cashwell still with us? I'd also like to elaborate a little bit more about when that you answered the question, also elaborate a little bit more on the why.
This is Beth Tigan, Chief of Staff, and I don't know if Dr. Grant is still.
Yes, I'm online.
Okay, because you may have more up-to-date information on the decision about who was asynchronous and on the 28th and 29th and who was not.
Oh, for secondary, the 28th.
For secondary, right. For like our Project Search students.
When it comes to secondary, the 28th and 29th are asynchronous days that will give secondary teachers the opportunity to prepare their classes for expanded in-person. As you recall, in November, elementary teachers were given the opportunity to get their classes ready for expanded in-person. So the 28th and 29th, again, are asynchronous days for our secondary students.
Ms. McDonough, does that answer your question, or did you have further comment?
Nope, that answers it. My children will be happy to have that question answered. Thank y'all so much, and give me a call, Alicia, and we'll talk about Project Search. We'll bring you over to check out the hospital.
I'll be there soon. I'll be there soon. Thank you so much. All right, next question.
Next question is from Nicole Webb. Nicole, are you there?
Yes, I'm here. I'm sorry, I have one last question. What type of supports are in place for our children who are still going to be here at home to help with the different subjects? I had thought about maybe trying to get with the schools and doing some type of tutoring program. Some of the lessons the kids are just not quite getting, and I'm not ready to send them back to school yet. So I know that they won't have that actual in-person, maybe stay after class and talk to a teacher about things that they may be missing. So do you know if there's a plan to offer maybe the online students some extra support? Or is there anything like that coming, or is there anything I can volunteer for? Just anything to basically get them the help that they need.
I can answer that question. We're currently working to expand some extended time for our students that will continue to be virtual to give them extra assistance beyond our school day. For example, elementary K2 students, they end at 12:45, 12:30, I believe. We're looking to expand that time so teachers have more opportunities to work with students in smaller groups, or it could be an instructional assistant or interventionist in reading and math. On the secondary level, they are working to identify the students, especially students that didn't do very well the first semester, to offer some additional supports for those students also. So if you have any concerns, reach out to your school principal and discuss, the needs of your individual child. And I'm sure someone can support you. And feel free to email me or call me.
Okay, I appreciate it because some of the work I was looking at, like, what the heck? I have never seen anything like that before in my whole entire life. And so the way that I learned it and tried to teach my daughter is totally different from the way that she's learning it. So I just want to make sure because both of us going to need support. So thank you.
We're willing to give it to you. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'll jump in quickly also. Thank you to Alexis, our educator and family resource center facilitator. I think she dropped a link in the chat. We keep a pretty lengthy list of tutors and just supports. Many are retired educators that are here to support our young people. So if you're looking for supports or if you're interested in tutoring or providing some, please fill out the link in the chat and connect with us with the Family and Community Engagement Office.
My question to that is there a fee associated with that? Because I do not have extra money. I'm gonna be honest with you. There have been some job loss. There's been some taking down in positions, which doesn't afford me the extra money that I may have had to get a tutor. When I called about a tutor, I think it was like $185. So that's nothing that I can, as much as I want to help my daughters, that's not anything that can provide if that's for a fee.
That's such a great point. And again, such an amazing network that we have here in Henrico. We do have some that are offering complimentary and free services for tutoring. We had an amazing call today with some young people who are Henrico grads. Some have gone on and are working in education. But anyway, they're offering some free tutoring for students. And so still reach out to us. I'm more than confident that we can support.
Again, thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Nicole. And I want to let you know you are not alone. I have two kids as well, and with my oldest, when she comes and asks for help in math, I have to tell her that's a foreign subject for me. We didn't learn it that way. We used fingers and toes in my day, and so you are not alone, and we'll do the very best we can to get you the support that you want and need. And so stay tuned. I'm pretty sure we'll be able to help you and anyone else who is listening. And I want you to know that you're not alone in trying to help your kid just like I'm helping mine. All right.
Thank you. Second graders math looks like advanced chemistry. So
We're in the same place. That's what we're saying. We're talking the same language here. because again, when I say I used fingers and toes, that's exactly what I did. And anything else, I don't know if you remember the tickler marks and all that stuff. So you are not alone. And I can imagine there are many others on this call that remember that too. All right. And I see we are at 7:39. We will take one more question, comment, feedback. Please know, family and friends, I'm going to do more of these because the goal is the more we know, the more we grow as children and adults. So Sean, do we have more questions?
We actually have one person in line, but before we get to G. Reed, you're up next. We have one question, Mrs. Atkins, I'm going to share in the chat that I think is probably a question of many people. What is the status of SOLs right now? Will students still be required to take SOLs?
I can address that. Currently we do not have a waiver from the SOLs. So SOLs at this point will still be administered at the end of this school year. And so, you know, we wait and see if anything changes, but I don't expect that will. And while it won't affect state accreditation, it does affect federal accreditation.
All right, thank you, Dr. Tigan. We're going to move on to G. Reed. G. Reed, you are our last speaker of the evening. Go ahead. Are you there, G. Reed? Going once.
Check to make sure you're not on mute.
Yeah, make sure you're unmuted. The floor is yours. All right, well, maybe we have wrapped it up for the evening, Mrs. Atkins.
Well, I will say very briefly, because I don't want to hold families here to 8 o'clock. I am so grateful for the many that joined us. I think we were somewhere close to 100 tonight. I know that many of us have had long days, and to join this call is important. I hope that you have received information that was helpful and productive for you and your family. Something that is at top of mind for me that I want to share in 2021 is around civic engagement. I want to serve Highland Springs, Sandston, and Varina better. And I'm going to do it through civic engagement. I think it's so necessary right now. And also, there has been rumors, thoughts. Many have noticed some events that I was scheduled for that I did not attend, or you noticed that I started doing things virtually because usually I'm in the community. I am going to dispel a lot of rumors tonight and share with you that I was COVID-19 positive. Glory be to God. I am feeling just as great as I look on your screen right now. My quarantine end date was the 10th. I am still taking it easy and resting, but I'm super excited to go full throttle when I can, and I will. And I want to close tonight again by saying thank you for allowing me to serve you. Please continue to reach out to me. I will do my best to reach right back out at you. I love who we are and every single thing that we represent. Enjoy your night. Good night.